welcome to episode 2 of the Dream Chasers podcast. And thank you so much for being here. So This is my friend, Laura Irene Young.
Hello.
And so I was like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Had I put one out yet? I don't know if one had been out yet. You
were talking about it, and then I was like, hey, I also want to be on that thing. And then I listened to it before I came here. So
there you go. Yeah. Perfect. So you have some idea of the chaos that this is. So I have decided. So before I filmed episode 1, I was in my shower because all my good ideas come in the shower.
Of course.
And I remembered this poem.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've decided we're going to start every episode with a dramatic interpretation of Harlem by Langston Hughes.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? I freaking love that poem. Freaking love that poem. So the idea behind this is to discuss the chasing of dreams, not necessarily catching, because catching dreams and chasing dreams are not the same thing. I'm going to move this a little closer to me so I can lean back.
Yeah.
So when you think of dream chasing, what does that say to you?
I'm in an interesting spot in my life where, like, I'm very blessed where a lot of my dreams keep coming true. It's amazing. I'm not, but it's interesting because there's a reset of like, what's the next dream? And I think that is something that's interesting, that like there's the dream chasing, but then there's also the figuring out the next dream. So that's whenever I read that, or you read that to me, I'm thinking about like, what is the next dream?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because a lot of folks don't have that. A lot of folks don't have dreams coming true.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is the reason that has been happening for you? I mean, like, do you work hard on connections? Do you work hard, just like, is it a craft thing, or is there some luck involved? What do you think?
Oh, definitely luck, I think, is like a big thing. But I also think that I've just been very lucky. I don't think, I'm going to get woo-woo, but I think there are dreams that when I know that I want them, it just feels like when I speak it into the universe, I'm like, oh, it's going to happen. Like I'll do little ones and then I'll do big ones, but some little ones, actually big ones for my career, but I always, when I was growing up, wanted to be like the lead in an outdoor drama. Like that was my goal. I was like, oh yeah, and it just seemed like that. Oh yeah, that's going to happen. And then it did. Or I'm like, oh, I want to meet Zachary Levi. Oh, that will happen. And it did.
What?
I know.
I love Zachary Levi.
We could go on a tangent because I didn't know he existed. And then, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel came out, and then I realized his Broadway history and all of that. And I was like, I was so mad. I was like, why did no one tell me that this like wonderful nerd geek guy that sings exists? But yeah. So like there are all those, and then even currently, what's happening in my life, I always dreamed of writing an off-Broadway show, and but I been a little lazy networking wise. Like I wasn't someone who like wrote. I was just like, oh yeah, I wrote this silly little show. It is what it is. And it just has all kind of happened. So I think that's and I think I just keep doing it. I think I go like, yeah, that's the thing I want to do. And so I do it.
I mean,
it's a long answer.
Showing up. No, shush. Showing up is, honest to God, sometimes half the work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because a lot of folks, and that's not to diss on anybody who, but a lot of folks are like, oh, I wish I had this thing.
Yeah.
But then do absolutely nothing towards it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I cannot tell you the amount of people that I know, like, who are like, oh, I wish I was an actor. Then go act.
Yeah.
I wish I was a writer. Have you written anything? No.
Yeah.
Then go write. Because the second you write, you're a writer. The second you act, you're an actor. And I think people get so scared of failing that they don't act.
Yeah.
Like they don't do whatever it is. Yeah. You know, like even this stupid thing, right? That I was like, oh, I'm going to do a podcast. What do you know about podcasting? Not a damn thing. Yeah. Well, which ones do you listen to? So I started. I don't.
This is a good time to plug my podcast.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. Oh no, we'll totally plug the podcast. No, I didn't. I knew I'd been having these conversations with people about the whole idea of chasing dreams.
Yeah.
And what that means. And it means different things for different people.
Yeah.
Right? And like the way I was trying to explain it to somebody, I'm like, if your life goal is to have your living room set up a certain way, but because of money or whatever, that was hard for you to achieve, but then you got it.
Yeah.
That is just as valid as someone starting on Broadway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because the whole thing is not what the destination is, and everyone's destination is different. It's the going, okay, there's that thing. I want that thing, and taking the steps to get that thing.
I think that it's interesting because I think dreams and perfection are two different things. Ooh, like everything that I've listed, or like when I think of like, here's the 5 dreams that I've had that I feel like have been accomplished. They were not accomplished in perfection. And like, could I do them better now? Probably. Could I do like, but it was like, okay, but I still did that. And I think a lot of people, I think it's hard because we want our dreams to be perfection and our dreams to be, but yeah, they don't have to be. So like, I wrote a children's book about my dog.
I saw Dapper.
Dapper. That's also a dream, was to have a dog named Dapper one day. That was just the cutest dog, and I found him, and we love each other and all that. But like, I wrote a book, but like, is it the best children's book? Is it making tons of money? No, but it was just something that
Did you do it?
But I did it.
Thank you.
You know, and I think it's cute and it's sweet and it's lovely, and yeah. But if I also don't wait for people to tell me I can do things.
There's this brilliant.
I really do. I'm just going to do it.
There was this interview with Billy Porter that I loved, where he was like, "Do not wait for someone else's permission to do your art."
Yeah.
You know, and but so many people do that. You know, they're like, "Oh, I can't. I did this stupid project a couple of years ago because I wasn't getting cast." And I was trying not to dry up inside. Where I bought a monologue book, and I just. Every week, I just did the next one, whether it was appropriate for me or not.
Yeah. I
just did the next one. And about 8 weeks in, I realized it was a British book, and I was like, I'm doing an awful lot of British accents. Why am I having to do a Scottish accent right now? Because I didn't read forward.
Yeah.
Was it perfect? No. Some of the early ones were pretty rough, but by the end, you get good. So you write a little book about your dog and your little dog's anxiety adventures, and maybe the first one's not awesome, but like you keep that going.
Yeah.
Eventually, was it 10,000 hours doing a thing makes you a master or something like that?
Yeah. I think the word master is silly.
I know.
Especially
but that's
like,
what they say.
Yeah, no, it is what they say. I think I've been contemplating on it because I have 2 master's degrees, and I don't think I know anything about either of those. Yeah, humble brag. But also, when people are like, oh, I want to go get my master's. I was like, don't think that any doors are going to open for you, and don't think that you're going to be great at anything. It is just more schooling. Like,
listen, I know some folks who have master's degrees in performance who I think are pretty terrible. Yeah. And, I mean, it just means you have learned more. It doesn't mean you know more.
Yeah.
Two different things.
But
see, I didn't know you had 2 bands. That is not in your bio.
It is not, because I think it's very because I have a lot of complicated feelings about it. Because when I went to school, I think that I learned a ton, and everything I do day to day is because of the classes I took, and so one's in performing arts, and part of my show that I'm doing now, my off-Broadway show, I started writing in a class there. Mm-hmm. And because it was titled something fancy, but basically the class was make your own work. And so all of that influences what I do every day, what I learned, but I don't think that makes me a better, a very complicated relationship. I don't think it makes me a better performer or a better actor necessarily. Like that label isn't what does it. My work does that. And then it just doesn't make me more knowledgeable than necessarily everyone else. I enjoyed it. I loved it. It helped me. It fueled me. It educated me. But that doesn't mean you could put me in a room and then someone who's never taken an acting class in a day, and depending, they couldn't like act
the floor with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
well,
I feel like in performing, education matters, but also at the same point, because you have an education doesn't mean you are better. So
I think sometimes people no. I get that 100%. Because, like, you know, I've been performing for 44 years. Mm-hmm. And so I only have the 1 degree. I only have a BFA. But Shirley Tannenbaum, who was one of my teachers in college, she said this thing to me, and to me that always made sense. It's like there's all of these different techniques that you learn as an actor, right? There's Alexander, then there's Meisner, and then, you know, Stanislavski, and there's all these different techniques. Mm-hmm. And some folks get so wrapped up in that technique that they forget that they're supposed to be humans, you know? Mm-hmm. And Shirley said one day, it's like, all those techniques are a tool, right? And so you have them in your little toolbox. Yeah. But if you need a hammer, you're not going to pull out a screwdriver. It doesn't make any sense. And and sometimes you don't need them at all. Mm-hmm. But it's just if you need it. So it's good to have those things. So to have the education, to have the training, teaches you how to find those things on your own. Yeah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's such a fascinating thing, because, like, you need to know all those things, and at the same time you need to forget all those things.
Well, you have to, like, performing, and I think anything you do in life truly should be, I mean, there are a few exceptions, but should be like a human-to-human connection. Mm-hmm. And if you think your knowledge is greater than the human-to-human connection, then
there's a wall.
There's a wall, and there's no growth happening, and there's no. So just like whatever it is, whether it's like my big girl job right now is in HR, and there's a lot of like legal stuff around HR. There's a lot, but also it's like human resources. Right. So like, yes, you can know all the legal things. You can study every like technique to like get through to someone or how to have a hard conversation. But it's like most of the time, if you just ask questions with curiosity, you just lead your life being a little curious of what another human is doing.
I joke that I'm a professional toddler.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just sort of in life.
Oh, you know? Yeah.
Because toddlers are great.
Agreed.
They just figure it out, right? Yeah. They're like, what is this thing? I'm going to lick it. Nope, that's not good. If I hit on my head, no, that kind of hurts. If I sit on it, you know, so like you just find whatever it is and manipulate it until you figure it out. I'm a big fan of making it up as you go along. Yeah. But in order to do that, you have to pay attention to the cues that you're being given.
Yeah. Well, and you also have to... I love the theory that, like, Indiana Jones, go with me on this journey. The theory that, and it's like
full disclosure, I have never seen any of them.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Indiana Jones isn't.
So I'm gonna look at you blankly. Go,
Okay, so basically, it's a big action movie, but unlike other action movies, nothing he does actually influences the plot, like ever, and it's great. But there's a YouTube channel called Cinema Therapy, and they like break down, and one of the things they talk about is like resilience and adaptability. And I think toddlers have that too, of just going like, oh, well, that didn't work. I'm going to cry for 2 seconds. And then like, oh, I'm going to start laughing again. Like resilience and adaptability. And I think that back to like dreams and like finding the next one is like resilience and adaptability. I think you could spend a lot of time going towards one goal, and then you get it. And then you're like, or you don't get it.
And you're like, now what do I do?
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to be adaptable and figure out the next dream.
Yep. Figure out what the next one is. I love that. I really love that. I'm going to read your bios.
Oh my gosh. I gave you a fun one and like a corporate one.
So it was really funny that you did this because I just revamped my website, and so I have like just sort of like the bullet pointed version and I have like long-winded, boring version. Yeah. So I'm just gonna like do some bullet points, but I just want to talk about some of the things girlfriend has done. So Laura Irene Young, which is her professional union name, has been a writer, director, actor for many years. Favorite credits, Julie and After Miss Julie, Marian Paroo. Could you not be any more different there? And Lorraine in Bubble Boy.
Thank you. Actually, if you know me, I feel like every single, you're like typecasting for all three.
So because I saw that and I was like, so as an actor, they're always like after us to figure out what our type is. And I'm like, okay, look at my resume and tell me what my type is. Because I had a year that looked like this. Yeah. So I had a year where I played Robert Ann in Nonsense. Yeah. I played April Green in The Hot L Baltimore. Yeah. I played Adelaide in Guys and Dolls, and then Tamora in Titus Andronicus. What the frick is my type?
But that makes sense. Like, as someone who knows you and has worked with you.
So that's how I felt about that. So, yeah. So you... A lover of odd contracts. I love that. She performed as a jellyfish.
I did.
So tell me about this. Mm-hmm. It says that you direct a local elementary school musical with 125 children. Please tell me that was not a dream.
No, I've done that. I've done that twice, and I'm going to do it again. So Pittsburgh Public Schools, one of the schools, their musical is huge. It has over 125 kids every year. We did Peter Pan last year. Wizard of Oz this year, and we're going to do, I was a little bit of a diva. I said, this is the only show I want to do, is Finding Nemo Jr. Oh, cute. Which I think is one of the best written musicals that out there, actually, for kids. But it has 125 kids, and they... You
know this qualifies you for sainthood. I'm just saying.
No, it qualifies the teachers for sainthood. It is not just me. The school district is phenomenal, where, like, they have teacher helpers they assign after school for rehearsals. So I literally can be like, Miss Geis, I need you to go into a room with so-and-so and run lines. And and then during the show, teachers watch different groups in different rooms. So like, let's say during Wizard of Oz, it's like, hey, all the munchkins are in room 224. And that teacher's going to bring them to stage when it's their time and it's going to take them back when it's, so like, it is not me, it is the teachers. Like, I just kind of say,
like directing traffic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, because for someone who has as many children as I have, everyone's like, oh, you must love children. I'm like, no, there's just a whole lot of folks that call me mom or some variation thereof. Yeah. I saw that and I think I started twitching. I was like, 125 kids. No. And
they are phenomenal. Like, so it's 2nd through 5th grade, and like they're wee ones. Oh, dear God. But my leads always go to Kappa. Like, they get into Kappa the next year, which is like the performing arts high school here. So, and it's really, and
it's a creative and performing arts high school, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they
think fame.
Yes, and they like learn teamwork together, and because that's the whole thing is I'm like, hey, here's the deal. Like, if you don't know your lines by next week, I'm not on stage. Like, and I'm
not going to look bad. You are.
Yeah. Like,
that's funny. I direct that way too.
Yeah. We're
just like,
yeah. And just like, you got to work together. Like, if you don't know your lines, it's going to hurt your friend. And this is a team, and it's a sports team. And there was it was ESPN or someone, but they hooked up a whole bunch of heart monitors to the cast of The Lion King and like showed it like against, and I use that for my kids all the time. Like, this is an extreme sport.
It is an extreme, especially musicals. Yeah. I mean, there are definitely some straight plays that are that way. Yeah. But yeah, especially musicals, I would say so. So it says you've been in several outdoor dramas, a professional jellyfish, and background extra on lots of TV shows, filmed in Atlanta, and you've been known to write a screenplay, play, or novel about anything that happens. Yeah. Speaking of. Yeah. You have a play coming up.
I do.
That you wrote.
Yes.
About stuff that happened to you. Yes. Okay. So I would say write what you know.
Yeah.
My understanding is it's super personal.
Yep.
So, to write something that personal about yourself, that's an extraordinarily vulnerable place.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're like fighting that, okay, so then you're sort of battling that perfection thing, right? Like this is a story that happened to me.
Yeah.
How do I present this in a way that I feel comfortable for it to fail?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like you can't do anything without feeling comfortable for it to
Yeah.
fail. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
you'll just sit at home and not do anything.
Yeah.
Sit on the couch, watch football, and tell them all how they're doing it wrong. Never having actually played. What was the day? This is what I'm talking about. What was the day when you're like, okay, here's this thing. This thing happened to me. I need to A, write it,
Mm-hmm.
B, star in it,
Mm-hmm.
and then start showing all the peoples.
All right.
And go.
Yeah, no, I'm excited because I kind of actually forgot about this part, and then I wrote a little Facebook post about it because I've been so I'm excited to say it. So the show's about my divorce, and it's very personal. It's about like our and my divorce was heavily linked in with religion, and I grew up very religious, and so it was a big like turning point in my life, and it was a joke that was not joke, but it was a story. It was so wild and crazy that it was a story that was told at a ton of parties. So like my friends would be, and it also involved a very odd place. And so my friends would be like, oh, well, if someone would start talking about that place that was very prominent in a certain area, if someone would start talking about that place, my friends would be like, oh my gosh, my friend was married to a person who did this, and then they left her for a person who did this. And people would be like, what? And so I knew that there was a huge story there because people would listen to it all the time, either if I was like there or not. So, and our divorce took place in 2011. In like 2014 or 15, my ex-husband, who's also an actor and writer, wrote a fringe show about our divorce through his perspective. And so, for a fringe festival.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So he wrote one first, and it was like a mix of, he was a fight choreographer. So it was a mix of like fight choreography and it was like his whole life leading up to it, and then like what and after and all of that, and dance. And he actually had choreographers from Cirque du Soleil in Orlando like help him with it. It was the choreography was gorgeous. And so that so I knew eventually I want to write something about it. And then like using Fringe Festival to do that. And then in 2019, I had just moved to Pittsburgh. I didn't have any move back because I am from here, and I didn't have.
And we're thrilled you're here.
Oh, thank you. I like it, except for like December through March, and then winter-wise, and then so 2019 it was February, so my sad times. There's a little post on my Instagram from Pittsburgh Fringe saying it's like probably like $65 to enter for your show if you'd like to, and it would be end of April. And so that's a very short timeline. And I had some friends that I love dearly that like I did a few we did like giant contracts, and I said in our group chat, I was like, should I pay this $65 to just like, and whatever happens, like I'll have 2 months to write it. I have to write it. Here we go. And they were like, yeah, you should do it. And then all of a sudden my Venmo started to like blink.
Yep.
Because it was like $10 here, $15 there. And then they created that 65 where like, now I have to write it.
Yep.
So
I know what that looks like. Yep.
Yeah. And I kind of forgot about it because it'd just been so long and a pandemic happened. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to write it. What's it going to look like? And I'm going to write it. And I had previously in the past, I had a few times where someone has kind of like did me dirty, and I wrote a funny ukulele song about it. Just because I was like, I don't know how
I saw on your stories, it's like my ukulele is waiting to go to rehearsal.
Yeah. And so one of the things is like Lorraine and Bubble Boy, which was my first like Pittsburgh show. I I was a cult girl that played the ukulele. So I'm actually kind of known in Pittsburgh as like
a ukulele
girl, or the cult girl that plays ukulele, and which I love. Great, I love that my career's here, and like truly I do. And so yeah, so I was like, okay, well, what if it's like the last, because I met him in 2008, and I was like, okay, what if it's 2008 to 2018, because that was the last time he and I saw each other, and what if it's that whole story from beginning to end, and I cut in little songs about how I'm feeling. And it was 45 minutes, and it won Best New Script. So I was like, cool, done. Never doing it again. You know, I'm not.
And scene.
You know, like I hit it, we're good.
Yeah.
Emotionally, I'm fine. And then I decided to do it for Fringe in Indianapolis, because my family lives out there, and it was an excuse to go. And it was also, and I was like, okay, it might be fun to revisit this post-pandemic. I hadn't performed in a while because of a pandemic. I was like, let me just bring this show up. I'll make some changes. Yeah, to my uke. I'll make some changes. And while I was doing that, I was talking to a theater company that I was doing some marketing for. And I said, hey, I'm just going to be out of town. I'm just doing this little show for Fringe. And they're like, well, what little show? And I was like, this tiny little show. You don't want, like, just a little show. Like, and they're like, can we read it? And I was like, you can, but like, it's just this little show. And they loved it, and they commissioned it. And we are doing a run at Carnegie Stage. And then we're doing an off-Broadway run. So it kind of like, and it was always my dream, back to Dream Chasers, it was always my dream to write a show and perform off-Broadway. I never had a Broadway dream. I had an off-Broadway dream.
I also have an off-Broadway dream. Yeah.
Because I like...
The better stuff's there.
I like weird shit.
Same. But also, I mean, like, all the good, interesting, provocative stuff is off, I feel like.
I mean, you have your like, I've seen some amazing shows off Broadway, but I've seen some great shows amazing shows on Broadway too.
Yeah.
But
they don't tend to do as well.
But yeah, they don't do as well. And like, yeah, you just get weird. You just get weird or dangerous, or I like that, like, intense stuff. And so, but I also do love a Music Man. But
I like being in Music Man. I don't like watching them. I like being in it.
I love it.
I like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's how I feel about Urinetown. I don't want to watch Urinetown. I want to be in Urinetown every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, like, because I did Last 5 Years, and I feel like
I
don't ever want to see another production of Last 5 Years. But I'll play Kathy for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I get it. So I did not see the movie, because everyone's like, well, you did the show. Did you watch the movie? No. No. I don't want to watch someone else do something I did and probably do it better. No. No.
In my head, I am the best Kathy, and I don't want to dream that.
Well, yeah, no.
But that's not how I thought I'd get there. Like, that was always a dream that was over here, and then this silly little show was here, and I never thought they would connect, which I think is really cool.
It's extraordinarily personal,
mm-hmm.
and everything that I'm seeing and reading and understanding is that the more specific something is, actually the more general it is.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, the more completely specific you get with an idea, it's going to resonate with more people.
Yeah.
Now, there's going to be people who don't get it.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because the people who do get it are going to really get it.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you're just trying to whitewash something, give it like a general feel of something, then no one's really going to, like, to it.
Yeah.
The way, like, so,
it was astounding when I first did it at Pittsburgh Fringe, because it is very, like, theme park driven and religion driven and, like, very specific to me.
Yeah.
And I kind of, because it had been so long since the story had happened, I was able to hold Laura from that point of view and, like, give her my love and give her my best. But at the same point, like, I could tell all of her dirty shit. Like, I can air her laundry. And the amount of people that would approach me and be like, I've been there. I've definitely been, like, that was so healing for me. And I was like, how? Like, how?
You know how hard is that?
Yeah. Or just like, what part of any of that can you relate to? But because I was so specific, people were able to be like, oh yeah, I was in a situation where that happened to me. It wasn't exact, but it was very close, because if you substitute this for this,
then it's the same thing. Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Do you find, because something you just said made me think of this, because you're doing this very personal thing and you're throwing that out there, are you finding that folks are like, thank you for doing this, you have inspired me to whatever? Do you find that's happening to you yet? A little? Your face is saying a little?
A little. I think not like the show. I think
but just you.
Yeah. I think I am very big on therapy and very big on diagnosis, and medication is not a big deal. Like,
right.
If you need medication for your brain to work, like your brain is part of your body, and like, if I have a skin issue, I'm taking acne medicine. If I have a sad issue, I'm taking, like...
I have never understood. I'm like, if you have gut issues, do you feel bad about having to take something for your gut issues? A brain is an organ. Sometimes the brains are stupid. Why would you feel bad about taking a brain medicine?
Well,
whatever that looks like.
Well, yeah, and I think in my show, especially... Sorry if I just cut in and out podcast-wise. I keep putting my water down because it has a label on it, and I could take it off.
No, I did it because I was like, it's a Dasani bottle, but I was just like, oh, I don't want to, because I'm a crinkler, and I would have just sat here and like played with it because I'm a nervous fidgeter. That's why. I'm sorry. Okay. I didn't mean to make you feel like you had to hide
no.
The shame of her bottle.
Shame of hydration. But especially when it comes to like. Like if you grew up with a big faith background, there is sort of like, well, you aren't praying hard enough, you aren't asking for happiness, you aren't doing enough, you aren't like, and that the deficit is in your faith and not in the literal chemicals in your body and how they operate. And so, and not saying that, like, I do think there's so much in like, praying and spirituality, and I'm not discounting that, but I'm just saying that like both are good. And the amount
praying
of people,
is just a form of meditation,
and like the amount of people, including my mother, who have seen my show and have been like, oh, I should maybe go to therapy, and I should maybe like get some meds, and I should maybe, because they're just something, like, especially if you've been through trauma, like your brain needs to reroute itself, because it's like sadness is the default or anger is the default, or
right.
So I've had like, just really, and I don't know the people that I've helped that I don't know, they don't talk, but like a couple people that are very close to me have started to like go to therapy, and not because of what I've been through, but what my journey has been. So
that's beautiful. Yeah. I get told a lot that I inspire people. And on the surface, that sounds really lovely.
Yeah.
And the reason I ask is because I'm very open about, here's my successes, here are my failures. Here's the things I should have done. Here are the mistakes that I made, and here are the ramifications of the mistakes that I've made.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've had a lot of folks say things like that. I had someone a couple weeks ago who said, and I quote, "You're not allowed to fail, because if you fail, what am I supposed to do?"
Oh, ow. Oh.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
So like that whole being an inspiration is sort of a double-edged sword in a way, Yeah. That's why I was asking, because I can see looking at you and all of the, and listen, there is nothing on this page that anybody couldn't do. Yeah. Right. But I know a lot of folks who are like, well, you're just wired different. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Yeah. I just like, you just wake up and you're like, oh, I want to do this thing. I'm going to do this thing. And it doesn't matter what the thing is. I'm going to do this thing.
Yeah.
And I have a great deal of respect for folks that just do the thing, whether it succeeds or not.
Yeah.
That was the whole impetus behind this, is there are people who get up every day And they're like, I have a thing. I want to do the thing. What do I have to do today towards the thing?
Yeah.
And then they just do it.
Yeah.
You know, I have a friend who paints, and personally, I don't think this friend is a very good painter, but this friend paints and posts their paintings constantly. And you know what? That is ballsy, and I am proud, and I respect that. Do I think that they need to continue to work on it? Yes. But also, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
And my opinion isn't the only one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I also paint. Do I think mine are very good? No.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop me from doing them. Yeah. So, I can paint from a tutorial like a beast, but just to like sit with and this friend does that. She sits with the palette and it's like, okay, here we go. And I can't do that. So the fact that they're able to do that and I can't do that.
Yeah.
There's respect there. They're taking a very personal story and going, okay, I'm going to do this because you took the first step. All the other things start to line up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So respect.
Oh, thank you. I want to say, like, respect-wise, I appreciate that. And there are things that are, like, very vulnerable in what I am doing. I also think time helps, right? Like, I can...
It's been, 5 years since the end?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Since he and I last spoke. And he did know, because everybody's like, does he know you did the show? I did tell him I was doing the show, and he said, well, I did my own. And so, like, I understand it helps and all of that. So he is aware of the first time. So I don't know if he knows what's happening now. I'm sure he does.
It's growing now.
Yeah, social media, who knows? But I also have a lot of friends that had been through, were with me during that and saw the show. And the show is not about him. It's about me. It's about you. Like, but all that to say is that, like, yes, it's a very personal show. And it is vulnerable, but it's also like I am so good at faking vulnerability too. Like, there are things that I am totally fine talking about on stage, and there are other things like that I'm like, no, I will never say any of that. So it's I just want to be very
vulnerable to a point.
Vulnerable to a point, yeah. And I think that there are a lot of people could watch the show or like see me do the show and be like, oh, she's 100% vulnerable about it. And it's like, no, I'm actually a very closed off person.
I'm letting you know just enough.
Yeah.
So that you don't think that there's more behind that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can, and it's only
not speaking
an hour.
for, just recognizing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's an hour and 10 minutes. It's not that I'm actually going deep. Hence why therapy is great. Because I can, this is my favorite thing I've ever learned in therapy, is that, like, your life is a house and you decide, because you do this, like, you decide where people can go. So some people, you don't even want, you don't want them to know your address. Right. Some people, they go on the porch. Some people, they can go the first floor, maybe the guest bathroom. Other people, you're like, you can rifle through all my shit. I don't care. Right. So
that's love. I like that.
Yeah. And so there are people in your life where you're like, I will respect, and it could be people you love dearly, but it's like, I respect you, but here's the thing. You can only go on my front porch because I know that I don't feel comfortable with you in my house or whatever. So,
and if you stop and think about it, there's a lot of relationships like, yeah, I definitely have front porch people. Yeah. I have stoop people. I have people, can you just stay in your car over there? Yeah. Because sometimes you let people in your house and you realize they don't belong there. Yep. And that's actually harder, I think, once you've let somebody in to them be like, nope, you need to stay over there now. Yeah. So, no, I like that. Okay. So back to the chasing of dreams. Yeah. Has there been a time, I'm sure there has. If not, then you're some kind of special superhero. But has there been a time where you're like, okay, I have this dream. I'm going to do this dream. And it just tanked. And then, okay, so then you do it. It shits the bed. And then... like, how do you deal with it in the moment, and how do you come out of that? Or should we move on to the next question?
No, I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know if I mean, I think my marriage. I think, like, the dream of, oh damn, like, career-wise, no. I think I've had a lot of personal. See, this is vulnerability to a point, right? So I've had a lot of personal dreams that have like shit the bed. So then I've gone straight to like more career dreams, and like those I can accomplish. So like, yeah. I think more personal dreams. So then I shift to the career ones because there's a formula, right? Like there's.
Well, this isn't working. I find one that does.
Yeah.
That's fair. And
also like career dreams are so fluid. You know what I mean? Like they especially when you're in the arts, right? Like it's not, because what I talked about when it comes to education and all of that, totally different if you're a doctor. Like go to school, you know what I mean? Like, and then
dear doctors, please go to school.
Yeah, please go to school and like go to the trainings and go to like, and so there's, so there's like stepping stones and points you hit and all of that. But whenever you're in the arts, it is more fluid. I think I would love to direct more immersive experiences and more theme parks and stuff like that. And I had, I directed for a theme park last year, and then the contract, they ended up like not hiring out directors. They ended up like using their own people. And that meant that I didn't get that job, which meant that I probably wasn't going to get. And then I like interviewed for a few more theme park contracts because they were hiring out. And then they're like, actually, no, we're going to use our own. Like there were like 4 or 5 that happened this year. That it just didn't happen. My friend Rachel and I, beginning of this year, did this really cool thing where we think it's cool, where we got little mini champagne bottles and we created labels with our 8 goals for the year. And then when we accomplish them, and they could be tiny, they can be big, we would
Can I play next year?
Yes, it's great. It's great. And like one of the things on that list was I wanted to direct 3 theme park shows. And when I realized it wasn't going to happen, I had that bottle of champagne because I was like, okay, I did not accomplish this dream, but I tried. And we'll do something that, like I wanted to sell, instead of letting that champagne bottle sit, I was like, we're gonna acknowledge that I tried. Like, and that's the celebration. Yeah. Like, I know it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
There were a few more that just like the timing did not work out because other dreams came in or other things came in, or life happened, and just acknowledging like, I dared to dream this year and it's not going to happen this year. So I'm going to celebrate that anyway.
I'm a big list person.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that's really jealous of the thing that you have with your friend Rachel. Cause I don't have any, I really don't. I keep trying to like create sort of like accountability partnerships with people, and it almost always shits the bed. I'm not sure why. I haven't figured that out yet. I'm sure there's something in me that's causing that to happen. But, because that's usually, I mean, you know, the buck has to stop somewhere. So, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I feel like that should be a thing. Do you find, because, I mean, you didn't have 1 bottle of champagne. Mm-hmm. You had 8.
Yeah.
Did you each have 8, or was it like 4 and 4?
No, we each got 8.
You each had 8.
Yeah. And some of them were like careers. Some of them were personal. Some of them were like, one of mine was like drive to Indianapolis, go to Indianapolis 3 times this year, which I did. Unfortunately, one time unfortunately one was a funeral, but I went.
Still counts,
right? I've
missed funerals, so getting to go still counts.
Yeah, especially when you're in theater. Like I actually missed one last year, and then so this year I was like, no, I'm going. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And one was like, I have a rib tattoo on one side, and one was like, get the other rib tattoo. And so it was like planning and making, you know, finding the right artist and all of that. The only one I have left, because it's the only one that it's like, this can still be accomplished this year, is taking a Christmas card photo with my dog where we like at JCPenney's, and I'm going to send out Christmas cards. So it's not like, it's not all like these
dreams
big
dreams don't have to be huge. I mean, they can be this little silly thing. Yeah.
And I just want a Christmas card. Like, I want to send out Christmas cards with me and my dog wearing silly little sweaters.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
So, yeah.
I love that. No, that makes me happy. You mentioned that you have a podcast.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had a podcast.
I do.
Now I'm like all self-conscious. Like, oh shit, she knows what she's doing.
Oh no. Well, I mean, I do, but no.
She's like,
we don't have this
I'm slumming.
We know. We sit in our houses in Zoom. It's with my friend Julie Carr, and it's called Pop Culture Period Piece Podcast, because we were both costumers and actors at the same time. So we love a good period piece. So we will watch a period piece and talk about it. And we'll talk about the costumes. We'll talk about like Marry, Bang, Kill when it comes to like the sexy men. We'll just kind of, and we'll ramble and be friends.
Marry, Bang, Kill. I was like, who's Marry, Bang, Kill? I have to look that person up.
I just didn't want to say the other one. It can't be the first F-bomb on the podcast.
Okay. I'll say fuck just so you can get
cool. I'll say shit all day long. I love it. It's like my favorite swear word.
Yeah. Listen, I have 8 children. I mean, I realize only 3 of them live at my house and half of them don't speak to me, but I still have them. And so I try really hard not to swear at home. So like the second I'm not in the presence of my children, like they just fly.
Yeah. But I'll talk about like, we had another, How Dreams Evolve. So we had another podcast called Historical Shade, where we would research times where people in history were shady to each other, either like big or like small. And it was great. Like but it took a lot of research.
Yeah. That's time consuming.
It was very time consuming. And we did it on our own. So like we researched how to, what platforms and all of that. Yeah. And we had a goal or a dream to be on a network eventually. So like we could just be a part of a collective, and we could wait around for that to happen, or I just started messaging. Like a lot of shit happens to me because every once in a while I get gumption. I just get so much gumption that I'm like, you should want this from me. Like, and so I'll write people and I'll say, hey, we're here we go. And
I'm writing a television series right now that is very specific to one specific person, and it won't work with anybody else. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to be like, here are my balls. Boom.
Yeah. And it just depends. Like some days I think I am the worst human being to ever hit the planet, and I'm totally untalented. And then I'll wake up 2 days later and I'll be like, you know what? This theater company needs this, or this, there's a restaurant in Pittsburgh that I thought was so gorgeous. And so I messaged them and I was like, you need immersive events. And here's what you need. You need a Charles Dickens event, and you need an Edgar Allan Poe event on Halloween, and you need that. And then they wrote me back and they're like, we actually have just been trying to figure out how we can have more events. And I've been working with them and I love it, and it's special. But every time I go into that restaurant, because it's a nice restaurant, it's gorgeous, and the food's spectacular, I go like, wow, I really had balls that day. Like, really. And so for where we are with Pop Culture Period Piece, I sent Historical Shade to this network, and I was like, hey, we would like to be a part of your network. I think we align with your mission. And she was like, you do, but I don't think this is the right show. And so she's like, I really like this, and this about your show. Is there a way? And mainly she loved our friendship. Yeah. And she's like, I really liked when you talked, like had film criticism about the shady thing, or made it less academic and more conversational. And so we came up with Pop Culture Period Piece. But right now we do not have any episodes releasing because it's struck work. Pay your actors, pay your writers.
Yeah. This is not currently, well, I mean, we are with, like, this is a SAG-AFTRA approved podcast. Yeah. But because we don't talk about that stuff, we can get away with it.
Yeah. So that's why, like,
it never occurred. Like, it's so funny because, like, again, I make, I don't know what I'm doing. I make it up as I go along. And so I was mentioning that I was doing this podcast, and Lisanne was like, "Are you sagging? Like, is that a thing?" Yes. And so then I went on, and I was like, "Oh, and done. You know, because this isn't about promoting a product per se. It's about those conversations around the creation of said product.
Yeah.
If there's a product.
Yeah. We're not working for AMTP or whatever.
AMPTP.
I knew I forgot. I was like, I forgot a T or P.
I got to. Okay, so, getting to go to Manhattan is like the greatest thing in the world for me. I love it, and I would move there tomorrow if I didn't have a husband who is from a small town and finds Pittsburgh overwhelming sometimes. So,
it can be.
It can be. No, it can be. But
we have a lot of bridges.
I got to. So I was there 2 weeks ago, and I got to strike in front of the HBO Amazon studios and. And I was like,
Bryant Park, right?
Yep. I got to, no, it was by it was close to the train station.
Oh,
like
okay.
Right down.
The studio's not the offices.
Yeah.
Got it.
I don't know, 3rd and 10th.
We were down there.
I was down yeah. So or 33rd and 10th. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It was close to the High Line and close to what's it called? Hudson Yards over there. But I got to strike like with the people in New York and cause like here they're doing stuff, but it's like, it all feels photo op-y. And I realize that that's all really you can do in Pittsburgh cause there's no place to actually go to like air your distress. So it felt like good for like, and I only had an hour because, you know, it started and then I had to catch a train home because I was in New York a whopping, what I figured out it was like 18 hours, like not like that was it. Because I came in, I did my class, I went to sleep, I woke up, I picketed, I got on the train. So I got to feel part of the process. So like that, like this is gonna sound weird. Like I felt more a part of the union that day. Mm-hmm. I've only been in the union 2 years, but like almost exactly 2 years. Like a week ago or something. It felt like I got to be a part of that. So I would never do anything to undermine that. Mm-hmm. Do you have any? Because we're not having to wind down now. So,
has it really been? Oh my!
Yeah, I know. See, that's what I love about this being a conversation as opposed to let me interview you so you can tell. You know, like you know. And I wanted, and I that's why I asked for your bio. Like I wanted to know enough about you. So full disclosure, we met like a month and a half ago, something like that.
Yeah, we're new friends.
And it's funny because I don't know if you had the same thing. I had so many people go, you don't know Laura Young? I'm like, no.
Who are these people? I don't know if anybody knows.
I think Cody was one of them.
Oh, yes. Cody doesn't count. I love him.
He knows everybody.
Well, and also he and I are very good friends. So
I love Cody. Yeah, he's adorable. So we just you played my daughter.
I did.
And I was way too young for the part.
I was going to say, that doesn't,
She was supposed to be 70, I think.
Yeah.
But that show was the culmination of that guy's dream.
Oh my gosh. Can we talk?
How freaking adorable.
How adorable.
We'll go over. I don't care. We can go over. They'll come yell at us. But, yeah, can we talk about so this gentleman had spent 25 years writing this play about his mother-in-law. Mm-hmm. And he's like some business dude. Like he's not like a business school or something.
Yeah, he's like the head of like Pitt business or something like that. Yeah.
So he approaches me. Mm-hmm. He found me on Backstage or something. He approaches me, asks me to do this thing. I bring in Julia. And he's like, will you do it? I'm like, sure. Like, I didn't read the play. And then I read the play and I was like, dear God.
It's gorgeous.
It was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. And I was like, oh my, I have to speak Slovak? What? By the way, we banged out the Slovak, by the way.
I only had one song.
Banged out the Slovak. But here's this man who put together this play. And then so this thing that we did together was a culmination of him finishing this play. And presenting it to like his friends and family and
90 seats. He filled it with his friends and family. And like the beginning of it, he gave this theater speech, which he said, and he's
not a theater guy.
He's not a theater guy. But like and this stuck with me forever where he's like, there are there are 2 times in a man's life where all of his friends are gathered in one place. One is his wedding, and one is his funeral. And he said, I'm lucky enough to have a third. And it was just, first off, the play was good. So like,
it was so good.
It was so good. And like, it was actually, we did a great job too.
I'm saying.
We brought it. And then, but just like the amount of love that was in that room afterwards, I've been a little, because I'm doing the show by myself, and I kind of gave myself, don't do any other shit. Like, don't audition for anything. Don't, like, you have to focus on this thing. I've been, just a little like in the like, oh, theater, and like that show just made me go like, oh, this is what it's about. Like, yes, money's great, but it is about that connection. It's about telling an untold story. It is about for the like playwright to connect to the audience. So it also is this man who's like, this businessman I actually don't think this, but like if he had no other way to convey how he felt, but he's also just phenomenal and afterwards said amazing things. But then he sent me an email like, I'm sure it was like about a month ago, just like reminding how much he was so happy with what we did. And just, it was his dream. And just to be there, a part of it for
the honor of getting to embody this creation that he's been working on for a quarter of a century. Yeah. And none of us took that lightly.
No.
Which
was
great. The whole, and I feel like there's a misconception in acting where like you can't act, unless you're off book. I'm like, bullshit, because we had that script the whole time. Yeah. And there was some absolutely gorgeous moments. I felt like you and I had some beautiful moments. I felt like Julie and I had some gorgeous moments, and you can't do that unless the work is good. You know what I mean? Like the script was beautiful. I speak slow. I can't understand what that meant. But also like what I loved about it is when I had that realization, I'm like, this is all in her head. Mm-hmm. He was like, it might be. Like he let me run with, like, I have no idea if that's what he meant. Yeah. But like, to me, I read that, I was like, oh, I know what this is. Yeah. And it may not have been. It may have been completely subconscious on his part, but the fact that he was like, no, I'm not going to dictate to you what you're doing. Mm-hmm. I've been working on this for a quarter century, but this is now yours. Mm-hmm. Go do. Mm-hmm. It was incredible. I felt very, very touched and honored that he allowed us to do that for him. Yeah. And it was a fantastic day, and then we had a couple rehearsals, and it was absolutely beautiful. And I also have been sort of like theater for a while. I think I was one of those people who did 6 or 7 shows a year. Yeah,
the pandemic kind of ruined me. I'm not gonna. The
pandemic kind of ruined me, and sometimes when you're so focused on doing a thing, and you're forced to take a step back. Mm-hmm. And you realize sometimes how abusive and awful that thing is sometimes. Mm-hmm. So, which is actually not the reason that I've been pivoting to TV. Did I tell you about this? So, like, this is such a fascinating chain of events that I did not see coming. So I kept going to these theater auditions. Like, I'm a theater actor. This is what I do. But I kept going to these theater auditions, and I would have like these theater directors be like, do you do television? You should do television. I don't watch TV. Like, I'm not a TV person. I don't watch it. I
love TV.
And I don't judge anybody who does, but I'm not, like I came up with this whole idea that some people are spectators and some people are participants. Like, I'm a participant. I am not a spectator of pretty much anything. Yeah. I don't sit back and watch things. Like, I mean, if I'm like listening to a podcast or music or something, I'm doing something else while I'm doing it. Yeah. So I'm not of course, that's probably all trauma based, because I was told my entire life that I was lazy and worthless and would never do anything. But like, so I'm sure there's some trauma in the fact that I'm not a spectator. I'm sure. Oh, yeah. So I thought, well, maybe the universe is trying to tell me something. Mm-hmm. I'll do television. I avoided film and TV because I had a really bad experience with film early on. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I don't like it enough to put up with this kind of abuse. Mm-hmm. The community that I have found in specifically television actors has blown my mind. How
in the Pittsburgh area, especially.
No.
Oh.
No. Unfortunately, no. New York. The New York co-star, guest star community is gorgeous and loving and supportive and uplifting. And I was just blew my flipping, because it was the exact opposite of what I was expecting. Because I'm used to, and no offense to anybody, musical theater people who are not always that.
Yeah.
I think straight theater people are not always that. And I don't think that Pittsburgh is an anomaly when it comes to how awful and cutthroat they can be sometimes.
I mean, I've lived in many a place, and I will say that, like, I think Pittsburgh is probably the least cutthroat.
Yeah.
Like, truly, I think that, like, there are cliques, we're human, right?
Right.
But, like, I think that there is true curiosity, like, even if it's, like, a show that you wouldn't normally go see, you probably are like, oh, yeah, I'll go, and I'll, and we're starting to see that come back. This is I'm going to say a very privileged take that you can say when you are privileged. So I'll just throw that out there. That I do believe a lot of my life, I get the right contract at the right time. And so when I like force something, it doesn't work, and that show that we did, I was a little like, I don't know if I'll probably just do my show. And that'll be the last show I ever do. I think I'm not going to do I'm not going to do it again. We're going to get to this spot, and that's going to be the end. We're going to end on a high note. And then, and one of the reasons was because during the pandemic, my godmother, who I love dearly, got very sick and had to go into a nursing home. And that was a lot of what the story was about. So when I kept saying, like, oh, I've had this conversation before. And the fact that there were so many things in that show that I was like, oh, I couldn't put it into words, but he could, and now I get to say them. And that made me go, oh yeah, this is what like being an actor really feels like. And not that I'm not an actor in my show, but it's a little different because it's me. So I'm more of a storyteller, which is, I think, different, but and there's a Venn diagram there, where there's an intersection. But yeah, I do think that for me, at least, like the right contract kind of, and just like different things pop into my life that, I had a friend who I haven't been to an acting class since pre-pandemic. And she goes, hey, there's this acting class happening. They have someone dropped out if you want to come. And it was last weekend, and it was the best acting class I've ever been to. And I was like, oh, I do like theater. Like, just because I got burnt out on it because I had too much. Like, I overdosed pre-pandemic. I OD'd real hard. And then took a step back. And just because a few people made it bad for me, and also because I wasn't choosy, I just took everything.
Yeah, same.
And it's like, oh, if I just become a little choosy again, I think I would love it again, and I just 2017 through 2019, I was very blessed with the amount of work that I got, but I took everything. And I said yes to everything. And I think
sometimes when you say yes to them, you're not actually saying yes to you.
Yeah. And I think whenever it's like, what's the next dream? One of my like next dreams is to travel a lot more. Like, I would love to just see my friends. Like, I have a friend that lives in Vegas who I actually met through my ex-husband's friend show, and we're best friends. But he works at Cirque du Soleil in Vegas, and I want to see him. And I have friends in Denver, and I just, I want to experience everything again. And that's like one of my dreams, which is weird because it's not career oriented.
Doesn't have to be.
And part of me is like, oh, well, maybe I should do a YouTube channel. And it's like, no, stop.
Dreams are valid.
Yeah.
Dreams are valid. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday morning with me and them. And yeah, so I think this was wonderful. So thank you for sharing your dreams with us. Yeah. Thank you for being part of my dream with me. And we'll see you guys next time.